Welcome back to another video, guys. How you guys doing? Hope you guys are well. So today we'll be making analysis on gold and on GG. On gold has been making all-time highs. Like gold has been moving. Gold has been very volatile. I'm very bullish. And now we at 4,000 4,200, and we just passed 4,200 today, Wednesday. Today being Wednesday, October 15th, just passed 4,200. And as you can see on the daily time frame, there is little or no retracements, like very little retracements on the lower time frame. Like the retracements on the daily time frame is like a day or two. A day or two will have a little bit of retracements. Then going forward, price just go bullish. So mostly price bullish. Like we see this retracement like this. This is just a 2-day retracement, bullish. This is a 1-day retracement, a day retracement, and bullish. Now because of the tariffs, the whole thing happening with US and China, blah blah blah. To trade gold now, low key, you need to be using the lower time frames, like the 2 hour, the 1 hour, 30 minutes, the 15 and the 5 minutes. Those are where like you can get like market structures, like entry points, like very good entry points. Now on gold, what I do is I use psychological zones. So zones like 4,100, 4,200, 4,000, like that 4,300. Those zones are psychological zones. Those are the zones I use. Those zones majorly because those zones I see that those zones tends to have some type of reaction on them. You can use these zones as take profit zones, as you can also use them as entry zones where price you test entry zones. So yeah, things like that. So if you go on the 15 minutes time frame, just look for or you go to lower time frame, any lower time frame, you just look for where price made like a counter trend. That is where price makes like bearish trend. That is a counter trend, because overall gold is bullish. So like here I got my entries on gold. I had 2 different entries on gold. So how I got those entries was I saw this counter trend that happened where price made a lower high, a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and this was the last lower high it made. Then this lower low, before price broke that structure, came back to retest that last lower high that we made. So when price came back to the zone down here, price was bullish. After price was bullish, I make that retracement very price made after price made this retracement. What I did was I waited for the rejection of this zone, this support zone. Now this support zone, like I said, is a psychological zone, and this psychological zone I use them as support zones to support and resistance zone. So our price came to this support zone. I waited for a rejection. Now on the 15 minutes there was a rejection. Normally I would recommend using the 30 minutes because 30 minutes holds more power. So in 30 minutes there was this rejection right here. So as soon as I saw this rejection, first price rejecting psychological zone. Second, this is like a double bottom down here. Thirdly, what I did was I went to the lower time frame, 5 minutes. Went to the 5 minutes, and on the 5 minutes time frame, what I saw is after that rejection, price came to retest this structure, this last um lower high that price made on this counter trend. So what price did was, as you can see, rejected, we came back, rejected that zone, then we came to this that last lower high zone on that counter trend, and we rejected it. So as soon as I saw this 5 minute rejection, I entered longs. So my longs was, this was the first longs I had here, boom, this was it around here, around here. So that was the first longs I had. Now I'm just showing you how you could have entries on gold too, same thing. So that was the first entry. Price went straight in profits. Then after a while it started rejecting, and I closed this trade at break even, around this zone at break even, because I had, as soon as price pushed up like this, I moved my stop loss to break even, and price came back to the break even zone, rejected and stopped me out at break even. Now it came back to that same zone, this psychological zone. Now this psychological zone still, it came back, and on 30 minutes it still rejected that zone. Now if you look at it, this psychological zone came back, still rejected of it. This 30 minutes rejection candle, rejected of it. As soon as I saw this rejection, what you can do to, or what you can do to, as soon as you see this rejection, go to the 5 minutes time frame. Go to the 5 minutes time frame. This is how you can trade gold, right? Look for those counter trend, the counter trend, and look for the last lower high, and wait for price to come to that zone, reject out that zone, and retest that zone. Then you have entries. Those are like sweet entries you can have on gold. So as soon as price rejected it, it came back to retest, and we got this 5 minute rejection candle, this here. So as soon as you see this, you can enter your trade, you enter longs. So I had one entry here, around here. So you can have one entry around here. So boom. And now one thing about this is that once you enter on the rejection, your stops is very minimal. So your stops, you can just use this last lower high. So once price comes, reject of it, your stops can be just last lower high. Or if you want to be a little bit, you can still use a little bit below that zone, because price can come to sometimes price will come and try to stop people out before going. So you can also use here, or if you want to give your position enough breathing room, you can use below this zone. Yeah, so use it, and you just, the most easy one that you can look for, the most easy will I say easy, or the most, what makes sense, you can just look for the next high. So the next high be your take profit zone. So the next high, which is this, the last, not the next high, or the last high that price made, can be your profit zone, next your take profit zone. So looking at this, it should be having a, you'll be having a 1 to 5 risk to reward. Now I'll show you another zone, another time that this same thing happened. Now we see that there was a counter trend here. This was a counter trend. This was a counter trend. Now for you to get more details on this counter trend, go to lower time frame. Go to the 15 minutes time frame. You can see how his counter trend was. This was the lower high, low, lower high, low, lower high, low. Now, like I said, you look for the last lower high. Now go on the 5 minutes time frame. You can see the counter trend clearly and see more structure. Now, like I said, boom, this was the lower high, then the lower low, lower high, lower low, like that, the structure. So now this was the last lower high before price broke above. Now you could use this zone. You can just mark up this zone here or around this zone and just wait for price to break above in the higher time frame and come back to retest that zone on the higher time frame. So now going back to the 30 minutes time frame, so what you do is just wait for price to break, like official break. Now you could use this first break down here. You could use this first because this was a break and came back to retest. Or if you want to be a little bit more patient, you could wait for this proper break. Then this was a retest, came back to retest that zone. Now you see this zone here going on. If you go to the lower time frame, the 5 minutes time frame, you can see more structure on it. Now you can see that price broke above, came back down to the last lower high here around this, like I said, is a zone. So if you look here well, you can see that it's a zone. So the last lower high broke above, came back to the last lower high, now rejected off this last lower high. So as soon as you reject off this last lower high, you could enter around here and look for, and your take profit zone will be the last high it's made, last higher high it's made. So there could be two. You could still use this one, this first break. Now this was the break, came back to retest that zone here and rejected of it. Now if that was your entry, it should be something like this, boom, and your SL will be the last high, the last structure point, which will be the last on this, on the 5 minutes, will be the last higher low zone. So if this was your entry, this rejection, then you entered, so the last higher low zone will be here, so below it will be your entry. So you can see that price came, then you in drawdown a little bit, then price came back to profit. And if you were to target highs, last higher high, you can see that price came, did whatever you want to do, and still came to take profit zone, which was up here. Or if you want to be a little bit more, since now, because the way price gold is moving is very, very volatile, and price is like just breaking highs. Like the price action we're having now is just price breaking new highs, breaking new highs, breaking new highs. Since this is the market condition we are now, you can just have a TP zone above the last high, because this is the market's condition we are in now. Price is breaking new highs, so you can have your TP above it, so you can target the 4,200. So if you wanted to target the 4,200 zone, you can see that price still hits TP down there. Now I'm just having this example. I'm having them now. These are three. I have three different scenarios on gold where it happened, and this was just the last 2 days. That was yesterday and today. Yesterday and today, price had this much. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday price. So you have different entries on this. I'm just showing how you could enter. Now there's another counter trend here. Another counter trend. This was the counter trend in the 5 minutes time frame. If you look at it closely, This was the high, lower high, lower low, lower high, low, lower high, lower low. So now this was the last lower high price made before price broke above the last lower high. Boom. So as soon as price break above it, comes back to retest it and rejects off it, you could enter. Now on this is a very nice um entry, because not only is it rejecting off this last structure points, it's also rejecting off this psychological zone, the mid psychological zone, which is the 4150 zone. So 4150 zone. So as you can see on the 5 minute zone, as you can see this line here, 4150. There's a 4150. This line, this line is 4150. So price broke above it, came back to retest. Now this scenario is what we call change of structure. So the broke above it, so we're having a counter trend, then price broke above it, came back retest. So this is like a change of structure. So after this rejection, you could have an entry. I have an entry. Then like we said, the market conditions on gold is breaking new highs. So if you want to come back, if you want to be conservative, you could target the last high it's made, which is this around 4179. And if you target that last high, your TP will be around this. Just so it will be a 1 to 3 risk reward. But if you want to target new highs, you could target, like I said before, you could target the 4200 zone above here, and as you can see, price has hit that zone. So this is a simple way we can um um have entries in these market conditions on gold right now. These very volatile market conditions where there is no more structure on the higher time frames. So you just have to rely on the lower time frames. You can just look for counter trends. Those counter trends, like I said, the counter trends look for the last lower high, wait for price to break above it, come back to retest that zone, and enter on the 5 minutes time frame. Now this is not always going to work, because this is going to work in this market condition because price is very volatile. Price is very volatile. So as soon as price is hitting those zones, it's moving. So in different market conditions, this still works. So it still works, but it might not be as efficient as in this market condition that we have on gold right now. So yeah, that's how you can capitalize on this on this whole movement and this whole market condition that we have right now on gold. So you can, like I said, you can use the psychological zones. Those psychological zones also have mid zones around them. So 4100, the mid zone, 4000 mid zone between 4200 and 4100. The mid zone will be 4150. And you can see that price, as soon as when price came to that area, and it's not like a number, you shouldn't use like just a number, it should be a zone on its own, a zone. So it should not be just a number, it should be a zone, because around this zone, as you can see, price came to that mid zone 4150. You chase from that zone, came back to the 4100, like you see. And if you go back to previous data, back to previous data, you can see that price has been, there are different occasions where price respected those psychological zones, but the psychological zone is not what we are explaining today, what we are explaining is change of structure. Those change of structure are zones are zones where we can have entries on good right now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, and thank you.